Hey guys, welcome to Desert King's Falconry. My name is Jason,
I'm Bladen.
and this right here is our doggy Luna. So today we kind of want to just kind of have a more of a simple chat where we talk about the most common terms or vocabulary that falconers use. When I first started, I feel like there were so many terms that all these falconers were using, and I had no idea what any of it meant. So I thought this would be an awesome time since our subscribe count went up like 600%. It would,
Good.
yeah, it would be a good time to go over some of these terms because we use a lot of these terms in our videos. So, like when you started falconry, like, did you kind of experience the same thing as I did?
I did. There was a lot of terms out there that everyone would use after every hunt. I'd go with individuals, and there was terms like passage or haggard or baiting, muse, weathering yard, and I was just like, "What is going on? Like this is computer talk to me. I have no idea what is happening."
Yeah, I definitely felt the same. You mentioned a few right off the bat, so I guess we could get right into it. Is you mentioned passage, so we can define kind of the different stages of development in hawks that or birds of prey. By the way, whenever we say hawks, birds of prey, like, or if we just say birds, we're really meaning birds of prey.
Yeah.
So
We're only birds of prey
yeah,
experts, and so we're not talking about other species.
yeah, we're just talking about birds of prey. So this includes hawks, falcons, sometimes owls and
Yeah,
eagles.
and to
So
dive right into it, there's a couple of growth stages for hawks and falcons alike that we use terms for, and part of that's one of the words is IAS, um, a brancher, a fledgling, and a
mm-hmm.
passage. And IAS is a baby bird, a little fluffy baby bird that you normally see on nature documentary shows. A brancher is someone that's now starting to leave the nest, or they're hopping from branch to branch. Maybe they're on the ground. They can't quite fly yet. A fledgling is reaching that point. They're starting to glide.
Yeah,
they're
getting
starting
close.
to flap their wings. And then a passage is a bird that's just now leaving the nest. That's it. It's within its first year of life, and normally they have what we call passage plumage or
Mm-hmm.
young feather growth versus their adult feathers, which are very different for a lot of species.
Yeah. And then what do we call an adult bird?
We call an adult bird a haggard or an old hag, right?
Yeah.
And that could be any bird that's older than a year. That could be any bird. It could be 2 years old, 3 years old, and it has its adult feathers. It's a haggard bird.
That one threw me off a lot when I first heard it. Oh, that's a haggard. I almost thought they were like insulting the bird. Like, no, it's just a term for they're over a year old. All right. I'm like, but it's gorgeous.
And it's important to know.
Yeah, it's important to know.
Each law has its own. Each state has its own laws. You know, some states only allow you to catch passage birds, which means you have to catch a young first year bird. Some states, for some species, allow you to catch haggard birds, which you got to know those definitions if you're going to start in this hobby or this lifestyle for yourself. So a lot of these definitions are important to know, and they are on your test too. A lot of these definitions we're going to go over are going to be on your falconry exam.
And when we like first say like bring home a bird or bring home an IS maybe, or we're bringing home a brancher, or we bring home a passage, the process of training it or getting it used to things was another term that I wasn't super clear on, which was manning.
The manning
process, or manning your bird, or your bird is manned, and that's just manning just means getting the hawk or getting the bird of prey used to just human things.
Correct.
Dogs, cars, yard work, you people, like
the manning
typical
process,
house stuff, loud noises.
It could be as simple as you sitting in this lawn chair
and
with
holding
the bird in your hand. That's manning the bird. It's a very simple term that involves the training process of getting that bird used to whatever we're doing.
Oh yeah. I think what else we do right when we bring the bird home, we also put a bunch of equipment on the bird, and those are some unique words as well. So like
start top down.
Yeah, top down. So first thing somebody might use is a falconry hood. You know, they'll use like it's typically made out of leather. This hood. It's typically made out of leather. This hood, and you can slip it on and off a bird. I noticed the Middle Easterners use it way more than we do, and they're really good at hooding their birds.
A lot of times when you ask an individual, hey, do you know what falconry is? And they go, oh, yeah, those Arab guys do it out there. And you'll see a lot of times them putting hoods on and off their birds. At Desert King's Falconry, we use Harris hawks. And so a lot of our Harris hawks, in a sense, don't need to be hooded. Each individual falconer has their own idea on that. But given that hooding can be difficult at times, and we tend to cycle our birds through each handler in the company, we just stay away from it and we use what's called giant hoods
Giant hoods.
instead.
Yeah. So the giant hoods are it's basically a bird box. So some falconers call them bird boxes or giant hood. Either one is pretty much fine. It's the same thing. It's just a it's a larger travel box that the bird can fit in, and there's a perch in there. So the bird can go in there, and you can put that box in your car, travel to your hunting field, go hunting.
And a giant hood is the most famous thing to use for most falconers.
Yeah, most
Keeps your
falconers
car
say giant
clean.
hood.
It's safe for the bird to travel. If you keep birding it overnight, if you need to, if you're traveling, it's a good way to do it.
Yeah. And then if we go down the bird, next you got anklets, and the anklets are just they're leather anklets. They go around the ankles or around the legs of the bird, and they'll have a little tab that comes off with a hole through it so that it can fit something called a jess. When they're as a pair, they call them jesses or jessies. So the jesses will come through. It's usually either a strip of leather or braided, or like a braided nylon strip. I like using the braided stuff a little more. And normally it's going to have a loop on the end, so that way you can attach a leash extender, and that leash extender will attach to a swivel, and then that swivel attaches to the leash. So
all in which is part of the process of being able to control the bird, but also to allow the bird freedom so they don't get tangled. So you'll notice on some of the equipment, you'll see little metal swivels or little pieces on this equipment, and that's just to keep the bird safe from potentially harming its own self.
I mean, we've had roughly 4,000 years to develop all this equipment, and pretty much the anklet, jess, leash extender, swivel, leash has been the best way to kind of set up your bird. Now, of course, if we're flying our birds, we're taking that leash, like we're taking it off at the leash extender. Some people will even fly their birds with no jesses at all. They'll pull the jess out of those little, out of the hole, out of the anklet, and they'll just fly their bird with just anklets on, and that's totally fine.
Correct.
It really just depends on each person, each individual falconer, what they want to do.
And here at DKF, we tend to use braided nylon jesses. That's just what we like.
We normally leave them on.
Yeah, we leave them on constantly, and it keeps the birds from getting tangled.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And then when of course, we've gone over like manning and the equipment we put on them, and the type of facilities we keep them in even has a unique name. We'll either call them a mews or we'll call them a weathering yard. So you describe a weathering yard, and I'll describe a mews.
Well, they're one and the same, right? A weathering yard. Think about the term in the weather. It's exposing the hawk to weather to get them outside in the sunshine, the rain, or the wind. It still allows safety from predators, so it keeps them enclosed in a sense. But a mews is a little different. Go ahead and elaborate on that.
Yeah. Well, and in a weathering yard, they're typically tied down to a perch.
Correct.
So they'll have the leash tied to a perch that's either like in the shape of a bow, which is called a bow perch, or a perch that's like they call it a block perch, and it's just kind of like a little pole that comes up. That sticks in the ground, and on top of it is a block, either a cylinder. Usually it's a cylinder block, and the bird can stand on top of that. But then a mews is one where it's more enclosed. It keeps them more out of the weather. They don't have to deal with the rain, the snow, the wind. It hides them from the wind really, really well. So it's much more like, I guess the best way I can describe it is it's basically like a tuft shed, but it's going to usually have one large window that you can close, and it'll have vertical bars on it.
Right.
And that's typically what it looks. It's like a miniature house for a hawk. And you can do what is called free lofting in that one more easily, where you don't have the bird tethered to the ground and you just let it fly around in that mews. So it acts a little bit more like an aviary, which is what most people know the term for.
Correct.
So,
and depending on which state you're in, they're going to require a mews over a weathering yard. At least that's how it is here in Arizona.
Yeah. It's always good to have both, like one of each, because at least where we're at, it gets so hot or it's really warm all year round. You really can just build a more fortified weathering yard, and they can stay out in that all year round.
And that's what we have.
So that's typically what we do.
We fortify it, keep them out of the rain, keep them out of the sun, and allow them good airflow and sunshine at times.
Oh, yeah. Footing or foot, to be foot. This happens to every falconer eventually.
Happens every day.
It happens
Almost.
mostly.
Yeah.
It happens to every apprentice. I know that.
We talk about it. That happens to me, man.
Yeah. So if you don't already know, being footed is when a bird grabs you. They can grab your face, your hand, anywhere on you. That's being footed. If it foots a different object, that can still be called footing. Like if it footed, and it's normally not like as an intended way to catch something. It's just they grabbed it. Either whether they immediately wanted that item, whether they're doing it because they're trying to tell you to piss off, or maybe they're angry at you, or maybe they mistook your hand for meat. You get footed.
The foot means to grab.
Yeah.
They can do that out of anger, frustration, or excitement.
Oh my gosh, it hurts. I had my first red tail. It's probably her second or third rabbit. I was trying to dispatch the rabbit, kill the rabbit, so it didn't have to suffer anymore. And I kind of got my hand in the wrong place, and she footed my hand. And that back helix talon went right into the joint of my thumb, and that thing was swollen for a week.
Yeah, we were talking today. I mean, getting them in the cuticles or inside your nail. Like I have a couple right now.
Yeah, that always sucks.
Yeah, it's not nice. It's not pretty, and there's nothing you can do about it. They do it. It happens. And every now and again, too, on your gloves, they'll slip a talon right in between the seam of your glove.
Yeah.
And they'll get you right there on the hand.
And a talon is just another word for like their feet or the claw, basically the claws on their feet. Correct. So those are talons, and they're really sharp. If you're keeping your bird kept in good condition, your bird has sharp talons. Of course. So and you don't want those talons dull because that can really affect how well they can catch stuff. After we've kind of like manned the bird, we've done our training with the bird. Used all the different things.
We've gone through the
equipment. Take the bird, we're going out hunting. And a term that I kept hearing over and over that took me actually a while to know is slip. Because this falconer would be going with his Harris hawks and it'd go out, chase rabbit, and it'd miss. And he's like, oh, man, well, that was a fantastic slip. Or that was an awesome slip. Or it would catch and he'd say, similar things like that was a great slip. Or maybe even say that was an awful slip. So, and you kind of, if you go out with them, if you go out with falconer, you'd probably end up just figuring it out on your own. But I don't know, maybe I'm dumb or something because I did not get it.
Hey, you said it, not me.
Yeah. And so it's really just an opportunity, a game. They don't have to catch it. Maybe they do catch it.
The goal of falconry is to get slips for your bird.
And as many as possible.
It doesn't mean, they're going to come home with something. It just means an opportunity to catch game or quarry.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's probably a term I use a lot, is slip now. So,
I think we all use it.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if I use anything else.
Yeah. Or
flight,
chase. I don't say flight or chase. I say good slip.
I say slip. Yeah. Anytime we're out hunting rabbits, it's always a slip.
Mm-hmm. For sure. What are some other things that maybe we say in the field?
Quarry.
Yeah. Quarry's a good one.
Game. Chase that game.
So we say chase it on game, and that's just their prey. Like it's just the animal they're chasing. I mean, I've done a lot of rabbits and ducks. What else do you normally hunt?
Well, Tony goes after rabbits. We do a lot of pigeons.
Yeah, pigeons for work.
Starlings, sure. Especially with today's video, we did a lot of starlings. With Harris hawks, there's so much diversity with what they can catch. Well, especially with what we're doing with them.
I'm pretty sure Luca's caught over 25 different species, and I think my female Harris hawk, I counted, and it's over 36 different species of animals she's caught.
We've had hawks in this company catch the little parakeets that you see flying around.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That was great.
We've had hawks catch mourning doves, collared doves, grackle, starling, rabbits, ducks, geese. I mean, anything.
We've even had hawks accidentally catch like weird stuff because you can't always control
you can't
what they're doing. So they'll go after some things here and there.
Mockingbirds, threshers.
They've grabbed herons and like
herons.
Yeah, just like huge stuff. And it's like, what are you thinking?
You have a good,
it's crazy.
confident Harris hawk. I mean, they're gonna
go after some
and
big
you
stuff.
don't have to always physically or on purposefully go after these animals, but they're just gonna go after them.
Yeah, sometimes
that's just what they want to do.
Yeah, so
there's been times where they surprise you and they'll catch a heron and you're.
What are you thinking?
The sound and the noise that those birds make when they get scared or caught is hilarious. But
yeah,
Orange
Oh,
eye
here's a
plate.
good one that we usually use in training. I just thought of another term, is a creance.
Yep.
Yeah, creance is one that's often used in training, and all it is just a long leash.
A long leash,
Just
to fly your
super
bird.
long leash so that you can fly your bird and so it doesn't fly away.
Before it's free flying,
Yeah, before it's
you
free
use
flying.
a creance to train the bird.
Yeah, usually it's used in a way where the bird's not quite ready to free fly. So you use the creance to kind of test to see if it's at the point where it can free fly and reliably come back to you, and then you let it loose. So
Another
usually
good
it's a
term,
long leash, or another way to set up a creance is like some people will take like a ring, a metal ring, and create like a long line and basically set up like a zip line. So you can
do that too.
you can put then you attach the bird's leash to that ring, and then they'll fly along it, and it's like a zip line going all the way down.
Every falconer for every bird uses a creance.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter
it's
what
a good thing to use.
It's a good training mechanism.
Good training tool
to get it done.
Yeah. Any others that we use in the field?
A lure.
Yeah.
Lure, and I feel like that one's self-explanatory as well. Yeah. But a lure could be anything. It could be a plastic object, a leather object. It could be a meat object if you really want it to be. I know some individuals use tennis balls or frisbees.
I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that either.
I would recommend either using an object as a lure that either doesn't look like anything else in an urban environment, or
it mimics
what they're already hunting. So like it'll like having a lure that mimics a duck or a rabbit or a starling or a quail is great, or just having a leather black donut, basically, you know.
And what that object does is, it's like how I've always explained it, is a toy for the bird that they really like, and they know they're going to get food from it. So if you have a hard time getting your bird to come back to your glove, which sometimes they're uncomfortable, they're too stressed, you throw out the lure, and almost 100% of the time that bird's going to come back to that lure for that reward, for that treat. And it's something that I use religiously for my own birds because I enjoy it.
A lot of birds will come to a lure more easily than they will to the glove.
Yes.
So, and that's really common. And I mean, just like fishing, how you use a fishing lure, it just coaxes the fish to come and take that. It attracts them. Yeah. Same way with the hawk. You're throwing that out, and it hopefully attracts the hawk. Just don't put fish hooks on your falconry lures. That would not end very well. That is not a safe way to catch a bird, or a safe way to trap a bird. Which, by the way, speaking of trapping birds, I think the most common trap that is used is really weird. We usually call it a BC trap, but it's like ball chiatry.
Yeah, so as you get into your ventures of becoming an apprentice, you're going to have to go out and catch your own bird. Well, one of the most common traps in the world, if not spread out everywhere, is the BC trap, or the ball chiatry trap. What all it is a dome or square shaped trap.
Just a cage.
Yeah, like a cage.
Yeah.
With
a mouse or something.
Mouse or rat with nooses on the top. And that's
real simple and easy.
Very simple one. And you'll hear that a lot when reading or read it a lot when you're reading books from falconers. They'll talk about the BC trap. And a lot of people are like, hey, what is that? I remember looking at that being like, BC.
Oh, yeah, BC. Oh, yeah, here? Ball chiatry. Yep. Like, I may be butchering it. So look at the spelling if you guys want to.
Old terms.
And then the other one that's commonly used is a dogaza, where it's basically like a net. It's a flat net, and it's normally to trap falcons. Right. So like your large falcons, like peregrines or prairie falcons, and usually they'll put a bait, like a little bird, on a stick, so that the bird keeps trying to fly off the stick, but it's tied to it, you know. And then the falcon tries to dive into it, and they'll just dive right into the net because they can't see it, and then you get it.
I'd say those are the two most common ways to catch.
Two most common ways to use it.
Yep.
So don't do that unless you're a licensed falconer, though. It is highly illegal if you do not have the permits to do so. So you'll get in big trouble. Now, there's some bird behavior things that I mention a lot, like what I wait for a lot on my goshawk is I wait for her to feek a lot. Mm-hmm. And feeking is just when she cleans her beak. But I think what's really more unique about some of these behaviors that they do is that it can really communicate to you when a bird is ready to do something or not ready. So when my goshawk feeks, it means she's calm, she's finished eating, she doesn't have food on her mind, because the feeking, what it's basically doing, she's taking her beak, and usually it's on my glove, and she'll kind of wipe her beak on my glove, and that's feeking. And when I see her do that, I know she's done eating. She's ready for the next thing, and it just helps communicate me to that. The other would be rousing. Every bird rouses. Like I don't think any bird doesn't rouse. All
I'd
birds
equivalent
rouse.
both those two terms to like taking a sigh, like,
Yeah,
like you're ready to
satisfying
go.
sigh.
Yeah, you're ready to rock and roll. And for goshawk specifically, from what I know and my little knowledge of it is, when they feed, they're ready to go.
Yeah,
Well, they're ready to. Once they clean their beak off, that means, hey, okay, let's get some more.
for sure.
I mean, rousing or roosing, whatever you want to call that term.
I don't think I've ever heard it called roosing.
I've heard it called
always
roosing.
thought.
I have. Maybe it's just me, but it just means the bird fluffs up. They get all fluffy and cute looking. It means they're comfortable.
Yeah, and they shake.
Yeah,
they'll do this little shake, like when a dog shakes, like when they get out of the water. It's similar to that.
Yeah. You have things too, like mantling.
Yeah,
where a bird mantles. And
mantle is normally a negative thing. Sometimes it's totally fine, but it's just when you'll see in one of our more recent videos with Luca, whenever he catches something, he mantles over it. He's trying to hide it from any predator.
You'll see him kind of twitch over this. Yeah. And I wouldn't necessarily call it a bad thing. I would call it very instinctual thing.
Yeah.
But depending on what's going on in the situation, reading the body language, yes, it could.
It can be
something negative.
So, like, I had my goshawk doesn't mantle once she starts eating, but then like the Harris hawks I have do, and then most guys who fly falcons try really hard to get it so their falcons don't mantle.
Yeah.
So, depending on the bird, it can communicate. It basically means they're afraid of something stealing the food. Is typically what it means.
It's an elegance in falconry to get you
not to mantle.
Yeah.
And with Harris hawks, even when they're mantling, they'll still let you take. They'll still accept the trade. So it's
and for young apprentices starting in falconry, your bird's going to mantle.
Yeah, most likely.
Because you're most likely going to ruin that bird, like how we've all ruined our birds in the past.
Well, it's funny. Like I'm working with birds now, or trained birds now, where some do mantle and some don't.
Yep.
It's like each bird's different, and
it could be one moment.
And mantling is always a bad thing.
You take the food by accident, and that bird's just like, oh well.
Yeah, mantling isn't always a bad thing, but it can communicate something that you should definitely pay attention to.
A large part of falconry is reading the body language of your falcon or your hawk. I mean, you can tell when that bird or one of our birds is going to take off for a pigeon out of the car, and versus when he's not. You can tell when they're going to take off after a pigeon after you've spotlighted it, and when they haven't yet seen it. A big part of falconry is learning that body language, getting comfortable with your animal, and knowing what they're going to do next, whether that's attack, whether that's chase, or whether that's fly off.
Trying to see if I can find. I'm kind of running out of definitions. What are some of the common ones that you remember talking about? I think people talk about species a lot and will refer to different groups. Well, like I've mentioned my goshawk, and we've mentioned red tails, and we've mentioned Harris hawks, and they're really a lot of times falconers will describe the goshawks as accipiters, the red tails and Harris hawks as bootios, you know,
and they're two different groups.
Yeah, they're just it's
based on flight style.
Yeah, it's a different Well, it's a different genus. So if you look at like the Latin names of the animal, they'll go through like its kingdom and genus and species. It'll have this long list defining exactly what this animal is, and you'll hear the term accipiter a lot. And accipiters are just the true hawks. They're your goshawks, your Cooper's hawks, and your sharp shin hawks. So at least we're talking just North America. And then bootios are your red tails, your ferruginous hawks, your Harris hawks, and red-shouldered hawks. Not all of those birds are used for falconry, but they're bootios.
Oh, yeah, and you got your long wings or your falcon.
Yeah, long wings or your falciforms. Man, I'm less versed with falcons than I am with hawks, so you're more than welcome to. Yeah, we're not long wingers. We call them
long wings, which is people who fly falcons.
Yeah, people who fly falcons. So long wings are usually referred to as just falcons. So people use those terms quite a lot.
And there's terms like Austringer, where potentially individuals like you and myself would fall into because we fly Harris hawks, and Harris hawks can be grouped sometimes based on their flight style, how long their tails are, in the accipiter group.
So there's a lot of comparisons between the Harris hawk's body and to like the goshawk's body, and they do have some really cool similarities. Like their wings are a little shorter, a little broader, tails a little longer. I do notice Harris hawks do have longer legs and feet, which is actually super helpful because um, I have noticed a Harris hawk, because of their longer feet, they're far better at folding a rabbit than a goshawk is. A Harris will oftentimes, when they catch a rabbit, they'll grab the butt first, or sometimes the head first, but they'll also grab the butt and they'll just fold the rabbit. and
I've had
and it's
times
just
where
like they
they'll get
got
a
it.
talon through the back tendon of the leg,
Oh
and then
yeah,
they'll go through the skin and they'll clamp onto the head, and then they'll have the rabbit just fully folded,
yeah, it's
and the
just
rabbit
totally
can't get
folded.
anywhere.
That's like the best way to hold a rabbit to get
Yeah.
it to stop. And
Yeah.
when they learn to do that, it's really good. And it seems like goshawks just don't quite have the widespread legs like the Harris hawk does. So it's kind
Harris
of
hawks
cool.
are fascinating. We have birds like Luca, who's part of our bird team, and he's a Harris hawk who flies in a way like a goshawk. I mean, the bird's a killer.
He's
and
awesome.
then you have other birds like Romeo, and you'll see some of our videos where he's more timid. He's not necessarily a killer all the way, but he does good. He has good flights, and he definitely loves rabbits and smaller birds. But each bird's different. They've got their own personalities. Harris hawks are just unique in that way.
Yeah, and then I guess if we maybe we should have defined this one at the very beginning, but falconry, what is it? The ultimate term that we're pretty much talking about this time.
Well, the very broad definition
is just hunting with a bird of prey. That's really all it is. It's just keeping a bird of prey and then taking wild game with
training it to hunt with you.
Yeah, training it to hunt with you. And that's the most basic definition. And even though, yes, we fly hawks legally and as a broad term, it's still called falconry.
Right.
And we call ourselves falconers all the time. We're probably closer to an Austringer than we are a falconer. An Austringer, somebody who flies accipiters like we talked about before. But that has also expanded to people who also fly bootios like red tails and Harris hawks. But another term is also just dirt hawker.
And that's what we are out here.
Yeah, we mostly dirt hawk, and that's just marching, through the dirt and dust and kicking brush to kick out game, and then the bird chases it. We're not trying to flush things in the air and watch things happen up high. We're kind of in the dirt with how we fly our birds.
Mud. We're the lowest form of falconry. Yeah. It's the most fun.
It's the lowest form, but most fun.
Yeah.
But you're dirt hawking with the goshawk too. So I guess if you're an Austringer flying a goshawk, which is an accipiter, but you're also a dirt hawker because you're dirt hawking with the goshawk. It's so what's the term, convoluted?
We have more fun than long wingers.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I'm going to say. We have more fun out here than the long wingers.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree. I don't want to make too many people mad. I mean, if it's your thing, go for it. But I think we have more fun. Awesome. Well, I think that pretty much wraps us up. But I think the last definition I wanted to bring up is the difference between falconry and abatement. So define abatement for me, and then how is that different from falconry?
Abatement is its own word in itself. Abatement means to remove. So there's weed abatement. There's what we do, falconry abatement, which means we're taking birds of prey and we're harassing, we're scaring off, and we're chasing off nuisance animals. And that's what we do, Desert King's Falconry. We get paid to go out and to get rid of pigeons or to scare away grackle and ducks off of golf courses and fine dining restaurants and resorts. And that's what we do. We get paid to do it, and we have a lot of fun doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's the biggest difference there.
Well, because for abatement, we're paid. It's a paid service.
Yes, it is.
Falconry is not paid.
Nope.
And even legally, you cannot get paid for just practicing falconry. So, it's very rare to find a situation where legally you can get paid for doing some sort of falconry. So, by the simple falconry license, you don't. And that's just the entire intention is to take quarry with falconry. With abatement, that's not always true. So sometimes your intention is just to scare or haze off stuff. But we take that a step further, and we'll also remove pigeons and starlings.
They are invasive species, so we can do that.
So we can remove invasive species that have absolutely no protections on them.
And that's where I believe the confusion can be sometimes. Falconry is slightly different than abatement. Now, we use falconry-based techniques to practice abatement, but we get paid for our work, which means we want our birds to have 100% effectiveness on their prey.
As close to 100%
versus And you explained this great today while we were hawking. You with your goshawk, you're looking for 20% success because you want her to struggle.
Yeah.
You want her to put in the effort to chase and potentially miss. So that way on the reflush or, the bush you kick again and another rabbit runs out or a duck or whatever, your bird can have that confidence to keep going.
I can do bigger rewards per kill because what's nice is my goshawk will chase roughly 4 times, but then on that 5th time, she's going to catch one.
Correct.
Or sometimes she catches one on the first one, and then she misses 3 times. So, and that's typically how I roughly try to gauge it. And I'll make it more challenging by making the distance she has to fly a little longer. I'll step further away from where the rabbit's going to move out. Or I'll, what else do I do? Or maybe I'll raise her weight up a little bit so that she's a little less successful, more wanting to play with the rabbits than catch them so much. And so I like to have that slightly lower success rate because I think having 2 or 3 kills a hunt with her right now is the best, and she can get a good size reward for everyone because she put in a good effort for them. Now with the Harris Hawks, we want to get it to like 90 to 100% success rate.
You have a crazy bird, Luca.
And so Luca
He's
gets it.
Despite no matter what. But
yeah, Luca does it.
I mean, there's days where you come out with a fat bird and you got to work with that bird, and there's days where you come out with a bird that's ready.
Yeah,
and those are the good days.
Yeah, but if we're just hazing, we don't need a bird that catches things 100%.
We don't. So abatement, when you look at it, is very different. Falconry-based abatement is very different than falconry, but we still use falconry techniques for abatement.
Yeah. So most of what you see on our channel, that's abatement. That's what we're doing. We're not trying to give these pigeons a chance to get out. We're trying to have a 100% success rate on catching them. So that's why Luca and our other birds will catch so many in a night.
It's still considered falconry. It's just a different form.
It's just another form. You can still do normal falconry in the same way we do our abatement, but yeah, that's why we don't give the pigeons least of a chance as possible. So hopefully that clears some things up. But if you guys are really interested in falconry, get connected with some falconers in your area. Almost every state has a Facebook group. Join that Facebook group. You can look up New York State Falconers or New Mexico Falconer Association. Yeah, normally those are pretty common terms to look them up. Or contact your Fish and Game or your DNR or wildlife resources in your area. And they can get you started. Honestly, becoming a falconer really isn't anybody can do it. I believe anybody can get a falconry license. It just takes the work to do it, and those who put forth the work are the ones who are going to get their license.
But I also want to add in there, guys, this channel, what we do, we're doing it for you guys, and that's why we started this YouTube channel. We want to help new, upcoming, and current falconers do more with their potential and to do different things. My lifestyle with falconry is much different than Jason's, but we still practice falconry, and there's different ways to do it than the traditional sense.
Yeah. So go ahead, leave a comment or two on what you want to see or maybe questions you want answered. I mean, we can talk more about falconry. I don't think we really want to be that how-to channel, but we do not mind answering questions or covering subjects just for fun. Like today, it wasn't really how to train a bird, but it was just about the common terms that are used. So we don't mind doing that, or we don't mind also sharing how we do things. If you want to look for something more falconry specific and don't want to look too much into abatement, you're more than welcome to follow my personal channel called Wilderness Wonders, and you'll be able to see more rabbit hunting with Harris Hawks and goshawks. That's what I'm doing currently, and who knows? It could evolve in the future. I always love trying new things.
There's a lot of amazing channels out there that can definitely help everybody out, not just our own. And go look online, guys. Mike's Falconry Supply. He has a lot of great books on there. So does Western Sporting. Those are some great falconry resources to use as you're starting to get into this.
Yeah. Be social. Don't try to get your information from one person.
Have fun.
Spread out and have fun.
That's what falconry's about.
Yeah,
it's have fun. That's all it's about.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.